Crossed into the net by Kylian Mbappe.
Oh, Benyera, beautifully done.
Cornet finds Dembele. The first touch is good. The second is deadly.
Neymar still. Oh my word, what a goal.
Golovin. Lovely finish. Lorient's delivery. Gendouzi's header. Here's an opportunity. Sanchez. Outrageous goal from Gael Kakuta. Play it again. And Dolberg. Messi again. This time maybe Messi's done it.
Hello and welcome to Le Beau Jeu for this week's official Ligue 1 Uber Eats podcast in English. We put the kick and rush into the ooh la la of the French top flight. Coming up, we look at a huge week for Ligue 1 Uber Eats' Englishmen, with Reims' Folarin, Balogun and Still going on a run as they clinch a point in Paris, while Jim Ratcliffe's Nice continue their revival. And Stephy Mavididi, remember him, Arsenal fans, bagged a sensational brace for Montpellier. Britannia derby winners Lorient were the only top 8 side to get a win in the round, so it's as you were at the top of the table. But could some last-minute recruitment prove decisive? We take a look at Ligue 1 Uber Eats' January transfers and chat last-minute possibilities and that outrageous Alexis Sanchez moustache. Along with me this morning for the ride, Jonathan Johnson and Angus Torode. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. How you doing? Good morning.
Thank you, Angus. I didn't think you'd let me down. You can rate us, of course, on every single possible podcast platform going. Please do. Make sure it's a good one. You can also get in touch with us too. We love to hear from you via Twitter at League One World or at League1_ENG. You can also email us your comments, league1podcast@gmail.com, and your questions. We do love a listener question. And you can see all the video highlights of every single game of the round on the official Ligue 1 website. That's league1.com. Well, where else to start but in the capital, the Parc des Princes, on Sunday evening. Reims were the visitors. Would PSG, though, be producing the champagne football? Matt Spiro was there to find out.
PSG tonight taking on a Stade de Reims team currently in mid-table but on a very good run of form. That's a bad mistake immediately from Donnarumma, and Reims with an opportunity to capitalise inside the first 30 seconds here. This is poor from the Italian. This is Flips crossing. Balogun in space, got the shot away once again. This time it was straight at Donnarumma. Switch of play from Matosiwa, asking a lot of Flips. He's done well though, Alexis Flips, and the cross as well has caused a real problem. Donnarumma saving on his line. Well, Reims are getting closer here. Verratti, Bernat, Hakimi lets it run. Messi, still Messi, and now surely Neymar! He puts the ball in. He's not offside. The goal will stand. Incredibly calm in front of goal. And Paris Saint-Germain strike first. It was the first clear opportunity they've created tonight. Neymar made a run from deep. Messi's pass here. Well, it touches Hakimi, but I still think that Neymar's onside. Bit of fortune about the goal. Bit of quality about the finish as well. So Paris Saint-Germain, having been under the cosh somewhat in the first half, are a goal to the good now. It's a really good finish that by Neymar. He makes it look easy, but he's waited here until the goalkeeper goes down. Now at the other end, a chance, and perhaps a penalty, yes! Reims have been given a penalty. A trip inside the penalty area on Balogun. And Reims with the chance to draw level. There's an offside there against Balogun. This penalty is going to be overturned, I would imagine. Balogun's offside. Oh, so he's having another look at this Verratti challenge on Ito. Okay. The yellow is being cancelled. It's a red card for Marco Verratti. Well, just 13 minutes into his comeback from injury, Marco Verratti sent off. No penalty for Reims, but a red card for Verratti. Well, Hakimi. Messi back for Achraf Hakimi. for number 2. Well, the flag has gone up. Hakimi is being told that the goal won't stand. He took it so well. Yep, just offside, Hakimi. PSG go close again to making it 2-0. Oh, Balogun. Balogun in the clear, a huge chance. He's beaten the keeper. And he has slotted a remarkable goal. In the 6th minute of added time, Folarin Balogun claims a point for Reims. It's a wonderfully taken goal, and it is no more than Reims have deserved. Well, PSG will be kicking themselves. Time was up.
So Folarin Balogun again on target for Reims. What a season he is having. The on-loan Arsenal striker on 11 goals now. That's just 2 shy of that goal drought-driven striker, Kylian Mbappe, who has the meagre 13, it would seem. He replies to Neymar's cheeky finish with one bit of real quality skill. Gentlemen, you both saw this game. JJ, it's more points dropped for Paris Saint-Germain in 2023. How do you explain this blip?
Yeah, obviously, I think many people were curious to see how PSG would fare post-World Cup. We're getting that answer now. PSG were unbeaten across all competitions. And once they came back to domestic action, it's not been particularly impressive, not been particularly convincing. And, there are some major question marks now. And you've got Christophe Galtier as well admitting that it was a pretty sleep-inducing first half performance from his players, and that he's not happy at all, with some of the performances. Hinted as well he's perhaps not happy with, some of the effort being put in by certain players. And you can see why, PSG was second best to Reims for much of that game. Very fortuitous to take the lead early in the second half. And I think a draw was really the least that Will Still's men deserved to come away from Parc des Princes with. They really, turned up, put in a performance, that was completely uninhibited. When teams do that, especially at this moment in time against this PSG, they genuinely tend to get the luck that they, merit from taking that approach, because there's a lot of teams that would turn up, not want to try and play. And the fact that Reims did, they came away with a very dominant first half where they were unlucky not to score, outshot PSG, I think, by something ridiculous like 7 or 8 to nothing or something like that. And then, PSG got fortuitous with the goal. Verratti gets himself sent off. Reims have the penalty overturned. Hakimi has the goal disallowed, and then Reims get the equaliser very late on. So came away being very impressed by Reims, but obviously huge worry for PSG with the Champions League return looming, and all of the star players, pretty much still failing to click.
Well, absolutely. You did mention Marco Verratti there, who did click of sorts, coming off the bench to earn a red card, which I thought was an interesting note from our producer, Stephen Willis. Thank you for that, Stephen. It's a little bit of a speciality, isn't it, for Verratti? But as you mentioned, JJ, 1 win in 4 for PSG, and Bayern, not particularly in brilliant form themselves, it has to be said, in the Bundesliga, coming up around the corner. But, I mean, that Champions League thing is still there. The shadows looming over them, Angus. We talked about this before. And how concerned are you about PSG and perhaps their European chances? But should we now also be really, really not concerned, but kind of excited that we may actually have some sort of real title race? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the pod, and PSG are still faltering.
Well, I suppose the good news for Paris Saint-Germain is at least Verratti's first ever straight red card for Paris Saint-Germain won't keep him out of the Coupe de France against Marseille. So that's the first thing. He'll miss Montpellier and Toulouse. They need him back because last night I really felt that Reims won the midfield battle. And it's not the first time that that's happened to Paris Saint-Germain when they've struggled this season. The performances from Munetsi, Matasiwa, and specifically Cajuste were magnificent. And because Soler he played a little bit higher up the pitch, I thought he was going to be in midfield, which would have evened it all out. It meant that Vitinha and Ruiz were a little bit outnumbered. And as a result, they had to sort of like bypass the midfield a lot to try and get to Mbappe and Messi and Neymar. as much as they could. Neymar obviously drops back to take possession, but it doesn't seem to be enough, and they're still struggling with this idea of a 4-4-2. And I know that Christophe Galtier is looking for a third way of playing so that he can take on the games like the one against Bayern Munich, but it's a little bit iffy at the moment. The thing is, these problems are generally happening to them away from home. I mean, their last 7 defeats have all been away. They've still got this massively long home run. So in terms of the Parc des Princes, I think that they'll probably step up, because I think the likes of Neymar, Mbappe and Messi, when they're up against a team like Bayern Munich, will take it to the next level. And I think it will remind them of the feelings they had when they're at the World Cup, because there's no doubt that they all look a little bit jaded. And I don't mean that in a tired way. I mean in a mental way. And I think that once they get something like Bayern Munich in their way, I think that probably will turn around again. But this is the thing that's happened with the World Cup in the middle of the season, is that an awful lot of stuff is happening that we've not come across before.
Absolutely. But Christophe Galtier is saying that the World Cup wasn't an excuse, or shouldn't be an excuse, and maybe a crisis of complacency. Complacency.
Exactly.
Did you see that in the game yesterday, in the performance yesterday, Angus?
All right, they were trying hard. I mean, there was lots of running, and the three up front were desperately trying to link up with each other. It's a nice phrase, though, a crisis of complacency. It's a good way of avoiding a crisis of confidence argument. But no, I just think that we saw it a little bit last season as well, and it didn't last very long, and then they were right back to form again. What's the worry is that if it turns into the season before that, because last night was a huge opportunity. I mean, only Lorient in the top 6 actually won over the weekend. Very strange weekend indeed. So Paris Saint-Germain there missed out on a really big opportunity to reinsert themselves.
Just a quick word about Reims. Will Still, the English-born, Belgian-raised Reims coach, incredible start to his career. 10 league games unbeaten now since taking charge. Reims unbeaten in 12. I mean, that's just incredible form from them. But they're hugely reliant on Balogun, aren't they, JJ? He's got half of their goals this season, 11 of 22. Unsurprisingly, the highest ratio for any player in Ligue 1. Only Robbie Thompson's all-time favourite Reims striker, Boulaïdia, has ever scored more for Reims in the top flight in the 21st century. That was 14 back in 2020-2021. Balogun well on course to beat that. Of course, Balogun's on loan from Arsenal, who are doing superbly in the English Premier League right now. But when you look at Balogun, JJ, Will Still talks about a complete striker. Are you seeing a potentially huge star of the future?
I don't know how high his ceiling is at the moment, but yeah, I'm seeing a player with really, really significant potential. I think the potential pursuit of him at international level is really starting to heat up. There's a lot of people taking an interest in him over in the States, because he is USMNT eligible, born in New York City, but of course could play for Nigeria, could also play for England as well. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see if he does maintain this form up until the end of the season, what Arsenal decide to do with him, because we all know about, the sort of embarrassment of riches that Mikel Arteta has available to him and how well Arsenal is doing at the moment. Because, Balogun now with this sort of, I guess, what we could call a breakout season for Reims, I think he absolutely has showed that he can, play the starting role for, with all due respect to Reims, potentially a bigger club, maybe one that's, eyeing Europe for next season. I do think it'll be difficult / impossible for Reims to keep him beyond the end of this season, because I can't see him going out on loan again. And if he was to go out temporarily, I think it would be to a club that's looking to get themselves into the continental mix. But, on Reims themselves, I think Will Still's done an absolutely fantastic job sort of coming in, being initially the interim and then being given the job at least until the end of the season. You look at the way, that they set up, and it's not all just about Balogun as well. I thought Monetzi was superb in the midfield. I thought Agbadou as well had a very, very solid game in defence. There's some really unsung heroes in this Reims side. And I was a little worried for them coming into this season when you saw guys like Ratcliffe, moving on, guys who, single-handedly have won them points in the past, and then to go and essentially unearth somebody like Balogun. And it was interesting to hear what he was saying after the game as well, because he was saying how being coached by Still at this moment in time when he doesn't speak that much French, the communication that they have together in English is absolutely enabling him to get the best out of his skill set. And I certainly think he's going to be somebody who a lot of clubs are taking a look at on the transfer market this summer based on what he's doing right now with this impressive Reims side.
I was thinking about Arsenal, and I mean they haven't really got an awful lot of centre forwards, and Gabriel Jesus is out injured, has been out for 3 months since the World Cup. Eddie Nketiah, though, has taken over and has really hit the ground running for them, but he's their only fit, dedicated centre forward. So it depends in which direction Mikel Arteta wants to go. And there's already speculation that Balogun might be called back before the end of the season. So I think that it's if he does go, then Reims, I think, become a completely different prospect. And then suddenly we're talking a completely different conversation.
Well, for the moment, Reims on a roll. PSG on a stroll, it would seem, not really hitting top gear yet, but they're still 3 points clear. Because they're fortunate, because Lens are stumbling too. They've dropped 6 points in their last 5, have Franck Ezer's side. They drew at Troyes. Patrick Kisnorbo's Troyes getting a precious point. It took a late Adrien Thomason equaliser as well for Lens. His second goal, I believe, for his new club after he netted in the Coupe de France as well to rescue a point for Franck Ezer's side. Troyes still in trouble at the wrong end of the table as far as they're concerned. 4 points above the bottom 4, but Lens 3 behind and only 2 clear still of Marseille, because they too failed to win, as Andy Scott found out, with Monaco, the visitors to the Stade Velodrome.
Ben Seguir. Head forward to Ben Yedder, who might have a run on goal here. Wissam Ben Yedder, deadly finisher into the penalty box, just couldn't really get that ball out from under his feet. It comes back to Ben Seguir, and it needs a good save low down from Ruben Blanco to prevent Monaco from taking the lead. Anderson and Youssouf Fofana among the players forward. It is Golovin who plays it in, and it's an own goal. I think it was Jordan Veretout whose header beats his own goalkeeper Ruben Blanco, and it's Monaco who take the lead. The Velodrome silenced except for the vague noise of about 400 away fans high up inside the stadium celebrating. It was Jordan Veretout who got the touch. He rose unchallenged by a Monaco player, and his header gives Blanco no chance. Monaco rewarded because they've been the more dangerous team in the early exchanges here. They lead by a goal to 0. Now then, ball is broken very kindly from Wissam Ben Yedder. Surely this time, in the second attempt, he puts it wide. An incredible miss from Ben Yedder. Well, usually so reliable. And how Ben Yedder has not scored in the first half hour of this game is beyond me. Angier. Here is Nuno Tavares, drills it in. It's not held by Noble. And Marseille level. It's taken less than 90 seconds of the second half for the goal to come. It's Alexis Sanchez who scores it. A 10th goal of the season for the Chilean, and the change made at the beginning of the second half by Igor Tudor playing its part in that goal. Alexander Nubel taking some responsibility as well, but Nuno Tavares has moved from the left to the right since the break. It was his shot that wasn't held by Monaco's German goalkeeper, and Sanchez, like any good goal poacher, straight in there to score the rebound. Well, Marseille were lucky not to be further behind at half-time. Now they're level.
So, Jordan Veretout's own goal, I think that's the third of the season, is it, for Marseille? Quite prolific in front of their own goal, surprisingly. Cancelled out by the man with the power-stache, as our executive producer, Stephen Willis, would have it. Alexis Sanchez. Again, given the results, gentlemen, at the weekend, that's a missed opportunity, surely, for Marseille. Don't you think, JJ?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the table at the moment, and you look at the fact that PSG were giving away, points of late. That was a massive opening for OM to close the gap on Lens. It was also an opportunity missed, I guess we could say, for Monaco as well, with Rennes, suffering another unwanted result. It's like Angus said earlier, it's been a fascinating weekend, sort of in terms of the top 6 teams, and the fact that Lorient, sort of the lowest ranked of all of them, were the only ones to actually pick up the win. But for Marseille, I mean, you do feel like, especially given that there's no European competition to concern themselves with between now and the end of the season, that they will be a team that continues to, if not rise, then at least sort of continue to put the pressure on Lens. To keep moving up that table and get in there behind, PSG. Obviously, they've got the sort of added spice of that Coupe de France matchup against PSG as well. So it's, I think, yes, it is an opportunity missed for Marseille, but also at the same time, when you're looking at the teams that they could potentially drop points against, or would want to at least avoid defeat against, Monaco would probably be one of those sides, especially given Monaco have that reputation of normally, hitting their second wind, over the final part of the season. So I think, yes, disappointing, given that it was at home, but also at the same time, given the way that the results worked out this weekend, I don't think it's sort of terminal. I think they can still sort of hope to break into that top 2. And it'll be really interesting to see if Lens can sort of overcome, the wobble that they're having of late.
So Marseille in third, still 5 points clear of Monaco, then in fourth. Marseille had been on 8 wins in a row. Monaco with decent momentum too, lost once in just their last 8. But Marseille making big moves in the transfer window. One of the sensations of the World Cup was Angers, or previously Angers, Azzedine Ounahi, with Morocco, of course. Finally, a move has been made, and he's gone to Marseille. At the same time, Pape Gueye leaving on loan to Sevilla, and talking the French media that unless there's a massive offer from JJ's favourite Aston Villa for Matteo Guendouzi and a reunion with Unai Emery, Guendouzi will be staying. So Ounahi as a reinforcement into that squad, Angus, that looks like a pretty good move based on his World Cup form.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a very dynamic, versatile midfielder who can play a sweeping role as well as attacking midfield as well. And he'll certainly bring some ideas to that Marseille lineup, particularly with Dimitri Payet's star seemingly not quite as bright as it used to be as well. So it's another direction for them. Marseille, they need to find a way to be able to stop going behind in games. And maybe a better attack will help them to go in front a bit more. I mean, they've recovered 11 points from being behind, but the problem is that they keep going behind. So they need to install themselves much more. If they want to really be a rival to Paris Saint-Germain, then clearly they need some strength in depth, because they don't have enough of it at the moment. And so, yeah, I think it's a very good move. Let's face it, not many people had really heard of Ounahi before the World Cup, unless you're a really avid Angers fan. But yeah, the World Cup is where you put yourself in the shop window, and he certainly did that.
He certainly did. I just struggle to see really where he fits in to Igor Tudor's side, unless Guendouzi does go, and these French media reports that he will stay are just wide of the mark. JJ, I mean, you must be much more in touch with the Aston Villa end of things than I am. Guendouzi to Villa, is that likely? Is that something that Villa fans would hope to see? And is that something that you would hope to see as a Villa fan, and being based in France and having seen how well Guendouzi has done over the last couple of seasons for Marseille?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Villa have this, something of a growing French contingent, or they did at least until they got rid of 2 of their players and sent them back to Ligue 1 with Gilbert and Sanson going to Strasbourg. But Boubacar Kamara has been an absolute revelation in the Villa midfield, and this sort of Marseille to Villa pipeline, is proving quite fruitful. So logically, a lot of Villa fans are excited about the prospect of Guendouzi coming in and reuniting with Unai Emery. Is the interest from Villa in Guendouzi real? Yes, absolutely it is. Unai Emery is very, very keen to work with him again. and Villa are prepared to put a significant offer in front of Guendouzi. The question is whether they can actually find the right amount of transfer funding to persuade OM to part with Guendouzi now. I mean, obviously, Marseille have their bases covered with Unahi coming in. I think it was quite interesting as well to see the dynamic in that Unahi move, that as soon as he became available for this month, they dropped their interest in Ilic, who was going to be coming in from Verona. And I think as well, the other thing you have to bear in mind with Marseille is there seems to be a lot of quite rapid turnover in this squad. Players will come in, play sort of like 18 months, almost 2 years maximum, and then sort of get moved on. So, I think they're starting to put the pieces in place, for Tudor to build, the kind of squad with the players that, he has given his seal of approval to. And I'm not necessarily saying that Guendouzi wouldn't be one of those players, but obviously there is some temptation on the players' part to go and reunite with Emery at some point. Whether that's in January, whether that's in the summer, we'll have to wait and see. But I think given the fact that Villa's form has picked up now under Emery, they are a much more attractive proposition for a player like Guendouzi than they were at the beginning of the window.
Yeah, if everybody knows that I'm very, very weather-oriented, and frankly, if I had the choice between Marseille and Birmingham, there's only one choice for me, and it ain't Birmingham. Anyway...
But how many of those Marseille players have had a Balti pie in their life?
Or been to the ball ring?
Well, you've just tipped the scales there, JJ. Yeah, Guendouzi clearly off to Villa for the Balti pies. There, you heard it here first, or probably second. Anyway, more former Arsenal player news. Stephy Mavididi had a busy weekend. Montpellier hitting a little bit of form, a brace for him as they travel to Auxerre. Angus getting the tissues out. Lost last 6. Angus's favourite Ligue 1 team failed to score in their last 4. It's painful. It's a painful return to the top flight for the Burgundy side. Benjamin Lecomte, though, having a great return to Montpellier. He's been playing at Espanyol, which must be quite nice in Barcelona, saving a penalty in added time to deny Auxerre a bit of consolation. We've been talking about them before. Lorient, somehow 5th in the table, the only top 8 side to win. They got a 2-1 Brittany bragging rights victory on Friday against Rennes. Regis Lebris's nephew Theo smashing home the winner for them, which is quite nice. Regis Lebris, how about this? 35 points from his first 20 games. The next best performance by a Lorient coach ever is Bernard Cassoni, talking about former Marseille players, 24. Rennes, another blip for them. It's a real shame, perhaps, for the Ligue 1 title race, but not really for PSG, that their challengers seem to be stumbling just at the time that PSG are also stumbling. Rennes, as I said, 3 losses in their last 5 for Bruno Genesio's side. Big win for Brest, 4-0 over Angers, who've now lost 12 in a row. Jeremy Ledoux run on target for the home side. Steve Mounier as well, former Huddersfield striker Steve Mounier, 4 in his last 5 to give Eric Roy a first league win in charge, in his first game in charge. And I think everybody on the podcast would send their condolences to Pierre-Lys Melu, who said in midweek that his young daughter, 6 months old, I believe, had passed away. So all our condolences to him. He did play in that game as well and scored, so much credit to him. Toulouse had Dutchman Thijs Dallinga to thank for their come-from-behind win over Strasbourg. Angus, is this the time? Is this the moment? Is this the moment, the weekly moment, where I hear the bus coming and I'm about to throw you under it?
When I brought them out of the Champions League for next season. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I'm talking about that one.
They are officially out of the Champions League reckoning. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, you heard it. Yeah. You heard it here first. I'll tell you why they're... I'll tell you why they're out of
I'm sorry. You're not having that. There is. I might have got it wrong with the Champions League, but nobody at the beginning of the season was predicting a relegation battle. Nobody.
This is fair. Nobody was predicting a relegation battle, but they're very, very much in it. Strasbourg on 15 points, 3 points now adrift of outright safety with Brest's win. So Strasbourg in 17th on 15. Ajaccio will be coming to them and their game against Lyon in a minute. They're on 15 as well, third from bottom. Auxerre, 2 points worse off on 13. They're second from bottom, and I think Angers 8 points from their 20 games. I think we can pretty much, unfortunately for them, forget about them for this season. They are as good as relegated, has to be said, at this stage of the season. There's a statement, boys. You can throw me under the bus later in the season when they pull off a miraculous escape. One other result to bring you, and unfortunately not particularly inspiring one. Clermont 0, Nantes 0, the only Ligue and Uber Eats game in history to end with no shots on target. But Nantes still on a very, very good run. One loss in their last 10. They're up into the relative safety of mid-table, and 7 points the difference between them. A rather healthy 7 points too between them and the bottom 4. So let's head to beautiful Corsica. It really is beautiful. If you ever get the chance to go there, certainly take it. It's a wonderful place. Ajaccio hosted Lyon on Sunday afternoon, and Armel Tongi saw this one.
Space for Ismail Diallo. Cherki had moved up high. That's a lovely ball. Now Belaili, good football this from Ajaccio. Musitioko in on goal still. And Munair El Idrissi sees his shot saved, and this is very much Lyon on the ropes here. Lovely build-up play between El Idrissi, Belaili and Musitioko. Barkala taking on Yusuf. Into Kakare. Gets it back, Barkala, it'll find Le Penant, who opens the scoring. A side-footed finish into the bottom corner. And that's a blow for Ajaccio, who'd started this game so strongly. Lyon 1-0 up thanks to Johan Le Penant. Bradley Barkala combining with Maxence Kakare on that left-hand side. Lovely ball back to Barkala from the little midfielder. And Johan Le Penant, the deepest of the midfield three, up, supporting inside the penalty box and scoring his first goal for Lyon. Belaili makes his way towards the 6-yard box. Mangani delivers. Belaili gets his head to it. It's off the post. Closest Ajaccio have come so far. No surprise, it's Youssef Belaili. Cakare's touch. Lacazette spreading for Cherki. Lovely ball that from the Lyon captain. Cherki now taking on Diallo. Getting to the byline, Ryan Cherki. Lacazette's there. It's just over his head. Tagliafico first time for Tolisso. Gets it back, the Argentine. Lacazette's waiting, and Lacazette finishes. Lyon get their second. That's the difference between the two teams. They tried from both sides on this occasion. Tagliafico with a clever touch, got it back from Tolisso, and then they were queuing up in the middle. Alexandre Lacazette at the front of the queue. After netting a hat-trick last weekend in the Coupe de France, that is his 12th league goal of the season. They see Ajaccio 0, Olympique Lyonnais 2.
So once again, Laurent Blanc digging into the into the Lyon kindergarten, basically. Johan Le Penant, Bradley Barkala, Ryan Cherki. OL getting a first win in 4 matches. Okay, all-timers, Alexandre Lacazette and Corentin Tolisso also playing key roles. But Angus, I mean, this was a must-win for Laurent Blanc, and his side won it.
Well, it's a slow, painful route back to some kind of form, isn't it? I mean, Laurent Blanc was brought in, fanfare. He was going to turn things around. Paris Saint-Germain's most winningest coach ever, with his titles there. But to be honest with you, the start he's made is not an awful lot of an improvement on what Peter Boge left him to start with. I mean, 4 wins is not particularly impressive, and it's hard to really see the direction that they are going in, to be quite honest with you. And it's not surprised that maybe Laurent Blanc has decided, right, it's time to really bring some players into the club who absolutely breathe the club. So 7 of the 11, I think it was, who started from the academy, either before or now. And a lovely moment for Le Penant, who got his first goal, set up by a really good run by Bradley Barkala down the left-hand side. And that, I think, set the tone. I mean, it was nice to see some genuine joy, that was expressed by Lyon. Lacazette led by example. I don't think he's one of the few players you cannot fault, really, for what he's done since he came in, made captain straight away, and he is trying to lead them. But the trouble is they just keep getting rid of all their best players. And it's very hard to actually build something really solid if every time you make some progress, you get rid of the person that is the current leader of that pack. And until they manage to stop doing that, it's going to be difficult in terms of Champions League qualification.
Oh, it's going to be very difficult in terms of Champions League qualification. Lyon 9th. Fortunate that nobody really ahead of them, one apart from Lorient, but they're still 9 points adrift the 5th place. That's Rennes, currently 10 adrift of 4th, and a massive 15 short of the 3rd place, which could give them Champions League qualification for next season. You mentioned Peter Bosz there, Angus. Actually, Laurent Blanc's record is exactly the same as Peter Bosz's from his first 10 games in charge. You are right, though, about the youth academy. 7 of the players in the starting lineup from the Lyon Youth Academy, but that's including Lacazette, Tolisso, and Anthony Lopez, who are, of course, real old stagers now, but also huge experience with Tagliafico as well, and Deon Lovren, who's come back to the club. But Angus there mentioned, JJ, about Lyon just selling their best players. Malo Gusto has gone to Chelsea, who seem to have found several millions down the back of what must be an incredibly large sofa in West London. They've invested again, and Tete has gone on loan to Leicester. Slightly disappointed that he didn't go on loan to Fulham, so that Fulham could have played with Tete on the right hand side, which would have been a commentator's nightmare. They brought in a young forward, Amin Sarr from Heerenveen. Julian Pollersbeck, the backup goalkeeper, is expected to, well, third goalkeeper is expected to leave. Kane Bonvie, which is a nice name, 20 years old, another Lyon Youth Academy prospect, promoted to third keeper. But JJ, just a quick word on Malo Gusto. I'm a huge fan of him. 30 million to Chelsea. That's a big step for a kid he's not got a huge amount of Ligue 1 experience, hasn't got a huge amount of European experience. How do you think he'll fare in England?
It's interesting. It's it's definitely a move for the future, which is in line with a lot of these Chelsea transfers of late. But he is a player who's shown glimpses of his potential. I mean, I also think from a Lyon point of view, he's probably one of the players that they maybe could have most afforded to let go of anyway, given that you've got Koumbedi coming through, who's also coming out of the academy. So sort of in terms of having his replacement lined up, they do already have that. But sort of to Angus's point, I don't think that Lyon can expect to continue to keep hold of their star players when they're not getting back into Europe. This is going to be their second consecutive season without Europe, and they've already had a couple of campaigns without continental football in the last couple of years. It's an affront to Lyon's modern Ligue 1 history, the way that they're performing at this moment in time. To not have OL, in Europe is bad for the French game, and it's a shame to see them sort of dwelling down sort of in mid-table at the moment with, let's face it, no major hope of qualifying for Europe this season unless somebody above them in that top 5 massively starts to drop form. Maybe Rennes will. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously they were unlucky with the injury to Martin Terrier, but I think there's a number of players in that Lyon side now that a lot of clubs are going to be looking at, and it's not just Malo Gusto going to Chelsea. You're going to have a lot of clubs coming in, taking a look at the likes of Lukeba as well, who is one of, if not the sort of the leading young talent, defensive talent in Europe right now. So I think this is probably just the beginning for Lyon in terms of having to try and swat away some offers from European clubs that are seizing this opportunity to make the most of Lyon's struggles. But Malo Gusto, I have confidence in him sort of long term to go and establish himself. I'm not sure that Chelsea is necessarily the right move for him at this moment in time. But then again, I'm saying that about pretty much anybody that Chelsea is signing at this moment in time, because I'm not convinced by the strategy that they're putting in place either. But, I do think it's a good thing for Lyon that they're able to keep him until the end of the season. But, it is worrying times for Laurent Blanc and his side, because despite the fact that they continue to churn out these fantastic youth academy graduates, the results are not picking up enough on the pitch. And, I think John Textor is in for a very, very, bumpy opening to his tenure with Lyon, given, the turbulence that's probably ahead if Lyon do miss out on Europe as expected.
Nice aeroplane reference there for John Textor, JJ. I like that, because we had that story in the French media a couple of weeks ago about how he likes to travel via budget airline, which isn't always the most comfortable ride. Perhaps there's a metaphor to be had there. And given that Gusto's 19 and Kumbedi...
See, he's already thinking about Lyon's transfer budget there.
He can probably get a new player and offer them additional wages by not adding checked in luggage to his trip. But that's another point. But given that Gusto's 19 and Kumbedi 17, I just wonder how far back they're looking for the next right back. Kindergartens in Lyon, beware of Lyon OL scouts peering into the schoolyard with binoculars at your 4-year-olds, I should imagine. Fourth loss on the bounce for Ajaccio, 3 points shy of safety, so it's not all done and dusted at the bottom of the table, not by any stretch of the imagination. Lyon, though, in a rather miserable 9th place, as we said, quite a long way off the podium for sure. They are still in the Coupe de France, though, and have got a fairly tricky home tie against Lille in the last 16. They're just ahead in the table of Nice, who actually played Lille, as coincidence would have it, at the Allianz Riviera. Andy Scott was on hand to see this one.
Here come Lille on the break again. Melvin Barr was out of position. Played inside, and David lays it off to Cabella. He's put it wide. It really should have been the opening goal for Remy Cabella. Well, that's a couple of times now when Lille have had huge chances on the breakaway. Timothy Weah to David. David, Lille's leading scorer, laying it off unselfishly for Remy Cabella, who was in a better position. Ball given away by Todibo. Cabella this time surely opens up his body this time, and Schmeichel makes the save, and, well, Cabella probably should have passed it. Mohamed Bayo was alongside him. Remy Cabella squandering another golden chance for Lille to take the lead here. Angel Gomez with the switch of play to the far side. Now this time Lille are in. Surely the opening goal. Oh, it's come off the woodwork. Well, Schmeichel got a big touch to it, and Nice survive again. Timothy Weah denied. Weah tries his luck a second time. How are Lille not in front here? Kick lifted into the middle, headed out by Thuram. Some thumped downfield by Gaëtan Laborde. Oh, and, well, big trouble here. Buonanni, he squares it, and Laborde will surely score the goal. Nice take the lead. It's a horrible moment for Lille, who've passed up so many chances to score themselves at the other end, and a defensive mistake now costs them dear. Gaëtan Laborde the scorer, and Nice showing Lille how to do it, and showing Remy Cabella how to do it. It was Cabella who was the last man back, who was caught out under pressure from Buonanni. He gave that ball away. Horrible moment for Remy Cabella. Buonanni, the ex-Lille youngster, setting up the goal. Laborde finishing it. It's Nice 1, Lille 0.
So Nice do the double over Lille this season. Second successive clean sheet, although that had a lot to do with Kasper Schmeichel, who made 7 saves. First loss in 6 for Lille. Didier Digard, first Nice coach to win his opening 2 home games since Albert Emon in 1994. Remember that? Remember that year, boys? That was a little while ago, and gives you a sign of gives you an indication of just how much Nice have struggled in the last 2 decades. They've certainly struggled this season as well, but now just 1 loss in their last 11 league outings, 5 wins. Digard seems to be doing all right. The 6-1 win against Montpellier, which is more than all right. 0-0 at Reims, which looks a very, very good result given the form that they're in, and now a home win over Lille. As we said for Lyon, Nice still a long way from the European places. 8 points, 9 points, excuse me. But I think the question is, the form that they're showing and the way that they're playing, is that going to be enough for Sir Jim Ratcliffe not to make huge, wholesale, swinging changes again in the summer, which seem to really sort of set the sides a little bit back at the start of this season and really cost Lucien Favre his job? Angus?
Well, yes. Yes, it's a good start. There's no doubt about that. But if you're making records after just 2 games, then you know that the bar is very low. I mean, it's not exactly what's going on. You can't really compare that to what's going on at Reims or even at Lorient at the moment. But they were struggling. They really haven't recovered from losing Christophe Galtier. That's at the heart of all of this, I think, is that they've just lost that rigidity, that solidity at the back. It's been very tough for them. It was good to see Kefren Turam at least rediscover his mojo in the last few games. He needed to, and Kasper Schmeichel looks like he's also beginning to become sharp again, like he was when Leicester won the title in England in the Premier League. And even Danch has, although he's suddenly become a goal creator, but he's obviously coming towards the back end of his career. And with Jim Ratcliffe coming into Nice, it's really the future that they really need to start thinking about. And there's a big job. We were talking about there's a big job at Lyon, but and down the Rhone and then into the Var, it's the same kind of thing. I think at the Allianz Riviera, they have a lot of work to do if they are to become anywhere close to what they were even last season.
JJ, did you want to say something about Nice?
I think for Nice, the thing that fascinates me now is the fact that they seem to have, gotten the balance right behind the scenes. Obviously, picking up Gisolfi from Lens is a coup based on what he's managed to construct there over the last couple of years. And now I think the hope for Nice is that he'll be able to sort of step that up a notch, for a club with a budget that that can sort of dream of Champions League qualification. I do worry that they might have left it a little bit too late this season, to qualify for Europe, given the competition for places. Then again, we're still just past the midway point of the season, so anything can happen. It's going to be a long second half of the campaign. So Nice picking up form now is, I think, bodes well for them, over the business half of the campaign. And I think Didier Digard as well, he's sort of following in this pattern of interim bosses who impress enough to potentially keep the job until the end of the season. Because let's face it, if Nice are going to, make some of those sweeping changes again in line with the changes that they've already made behind the scenes, it's logical that they probably wait until the summer now to make a managerial appointment instead of bringing somebody in now, disrupting what's been a fairly decent start to life for Digard, and risking having to start all over again next season. I do think that the pieces are there to have a very strong and convincing project. I just think it needs a bit of time and a bit of patience. And one thing that I don't think really helps Nice's cause is the fact that Ratcliffe seems to be linked with Premier League clubs every other week at this moment in time. I think once there is, some sort of clarity on whether Ineos is actually at their sort of, whether Nice is at the head of the Ineos project, or if there's going to always be some other sort of solicitation of other bigger, more prestigious clubs, perhaps, then I think that will always breed an air of uncertainty. But you look at some of the hires that are being made at the moment, pinching Jean-Claude Blanc from PSG as well. That is a massive coup, so I think Nice really have the potential to build themselves into, one of the most genuine sort of contenders for PSG's crown, moving forward. It's just up to them now to make the most of the remainder of this season, try and scrape a European place, and then keep building with the momentum from there.
Yeah, interesting to those comments. Absolutely echo those, JJ. I think that the patience needs to be shown, and that's not exactly usually the key quality of multi-millionaire or multi-billionaire in this case owners. But I absolutely agree with you that Nice do have the potential to be massive, and maybe not quite on the scale of the potential that Newcastle United have, for example. But there's certainly a fan base there. There's a stadium there, and I think there's a team there. And Angus mentioned Kefren Turam, who I think is a fabulous player. I think he's the new Pogba for me for French football. Look out for him. I mean, you know the name already. You just don't know the first name, really. I think he might be 20 now. The younger brother of Marcus Thuram, the younger son of former, now all-time French national team appearance record cap man, if that's even a word. Lilian Thuram, World Cup winner and Euro 2000 winner. He's a brilliant player. One negative point, and if we're coming back to more on loan Arsenal players, Nicola Pepe picking up what could be a season-ending injury. So Bilal Brahimi, once of Middlesbrough, who was due to go out on loan to Troyes, has now been kept back by Nice. So we'll be keeping an eye on whether Pepe can feature again for Nice this season. But Nice, mid-table. Lille down into 7th with Lorient winning, moving ahead of them. Lille 4 points off 4th, 9 points off 3rd place. Guys, Paulo Fonseca side, just quickly, are we going to see them, recover from this little setback and again keep challenging for the European places, or do you think Lille are just a little bit short this season?
I don't know. I mean, anything I say is going to be wrong anyway. So I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But I mean,
damn it, you saw through my plan.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. The trouble with Lille is it's the budget, isn't it? Being able to consistently challenge at the top end is hard, because with the dominant force being Paris Saint-Germain sucking in all of the best players, you occasionally are going to get another team that have a splendid year, like Lens are having this season. Ironically, they lost the architect of their rise now to go somewhere else, just at the point when Lens are actually becoming a Champions League team. But anyway, that's an aside. For Lille, they're so inconsistent. That's the problem, and they fit into this bracket with Lyon as well. Is that there are teams that have pretensions of being great, but then perhaps don't back it up with the consistent long-term planning. Because when they lost Galtier and Luis Campos, then in some senses, then the blueprint for their success was removed. So they might come back and qualify for the Europa League, but I think that the Champions League is now beyond them.
I think as well, the thing to keep in mind with Lille is sort of the financial aspect. When the new board came in, they were inheriting a very, very dodgy, financial situation. They had to get rid of a lot of players. They still have to make some money back on those players. And I think the obvious, candidate to potentially bring in some money for them to redo the squad is Jonathan David. And I think if he moves on this summer as expected, that will probably see, some fairly wholesale changes made to the squad, because when you look at it, it is a solid group of players, and they can probably aspire to get themselves into a European position between now and the end of the season. But so many of these players are probably going to have to be moved on in the next year or so, given some of the ages of them. I mean, look at somebody like José Fonch in the defense. You've got guys like Benjamin Andre. I know that he signed a contract extension, but these are guys who, are not necessarily going to be evergreen for that much longer. Remy Cabella as well, another old timer. So guys who are performing well and consistently at the moment, but I think there has to be more of an eye towards the future at some point with this Lille project. And Paulo Fonseca certainly is, making a strong case for him to be the man to oversee that the way that he has, managed to turn them around sort of after, what was quite I think for Lille fans, quite a depressing Gourvenec period.
In the short term, I think we might have been having a slightly different conversation had Remy Cabella not had such a nightmare, particularly in the first half. He missed 3 really great chances and then handed the ball over for the opening goal. But again, he bringing him in is a little bit like sticking plaster at the moment. It's not really a long-term view, and it's that Lille are really looking for.
I just think that the point that you made about Lyon is very valid as well for Lille. Angus, Botman, Mignon, Gabriel, before him, Jonathan Ikone. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of players that have been sold by Lille, and yes, they're still bringing through some pretty decent players. But you're right, JJ. It does seem that Jonathan David is their most bankable asset. But then again, who do they replace him with? Well, that's a little bit like our Déjà Who competition. That's probably one of the most awkward segues ever for this podcast. We have a winner for our January jersey giveaway, which required intrepid listeners and really very, very intelligent listeners to correctly answer 4 quizzes of football trivia from our master trivia question setter, Robbie Thompson, and also identify the theme that linked them all. What a challenge it was too. The answers then: Ezekiel Lavezzi, Daniel Subasic, Johnny Rep, very, very blast from the past, and Franck Ribéry were the 4 players. And the connection, gentlemen? All lost a World Cup final. Lavezzi 2014, Subasic 2018, Johnny Rep, crikey, 1978, and Franck Ribéry, I was there in Berlin, 2006. Our winner, and fantastic work from you, Berk Ertugrul. I'm probably the biggest Reece Healy fan in the world and probably the only one in Turkey, he says. I think that's a fair bet. Berk, that there's not many Reece Healy fans in Turkey. Unfortunately, you've not won yourself a Reece Healy shirt. You've got an Alexandre Lacazette Lyon jersey, but you will, of course, be delighted to see that Reece Healy back from that long-term injury. Thank you, JJ, for that little comment. I hadn't seen that. Toulouse will be delighted to have him back. He did so well in their promotion. Oh, he's back training, says JJ. Okay, it might be a little while before we see him on the pitch, but that jersey, Burke, will be winging its way to you in short order. So now it's time for this week's quiz, the first of our February quizzes, although we're still in January, and in honour of not one but 2 classiques between Paris Saint-Germain and Marseille this month, one in the League, of course, and one in the Coupe de France. We've got a PSG or Marseille shirt to be given away. Not quite sure who's going to be the chosen one, but you have a PSG or Marseille shirt up for grabs. So the question is, who am I? My 18-year professional career took me from my homeland to Europe, where I played in Portugal, Spain, England and Italy, as well as 2 notable spells in Ligue 1. While in France, I won each major trophy, the Coupe de France, even though I didn't play in the final, the Coupe de la Ligue, and Ligue 1 Uber Eats, to go with my English Premier League and Liga crowns. My all-action style made me a fan favourite everywhere I travelled, including at both of my French clubs, which is no small feat. I played in 2 World Cups as I earned over 70 caps in my international career, and after ending my playing career where it began, I have now returned as coach. Who am I, and why did I miss the Coupe de France final? If you think you know who it is, or are just willing to take a wild stab in the dark like the rest of us, send your answers via email to league1podcast@gmail.com. JJ, Angus, any ideas? Blanks.
This one's going to take it. This one's going to. It's going to take a while of reflection. I think it's. I don't know. I'm tempted to throw a few names out there, but like you said, it could be a stab in the dark at this stage.
Oh, we do love a stab in the dark on Le Bourgeois. That's for sure. Just ask Angus and his predictions. Oh, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Anyway, all that's left really is to look ahead to what we've got 2 rounds of Ligue 1 action this week. We've got a midweek round, and then we've got the usual weekend round as well. So we're going to be able to take a couple of bon voyages over the next 7 days or so. Gentlemen, a midweek round, an English week, as they call it in Germany for some strange reason, because they have weeks as well in Germany. I can confirm, having lived there. We've also got weeks in France, and the midweek games, standout fixtures. Well, one standout fixture for fairly obvious reasons is a real battle at the bottom of the table. Angers against Ajaccio, Nantes against Marseille, a real classic of French football. Lens against Nice, pretty much the longest journey that Nice fans can make this season. Lyon against Brest, Montpellier against Paris Saint-Germain. That's midweek. PSG Toulouse at the weekend. Rennes Lille. That's a very, very enticing game at Roazhon Park. Actually, talking about Roazhon Park, I interviewed Amari Traore and Arthur Théat last week, and you'll be pleased to know neither of them can get anywhere near my record of 8 galette saucisse, in one game. I was pretty disappointed with that performance from them. Arthur Théat said 2 or 3, and Amari Traore actually doesn't eat galette saucisse, which is probably fair enough for a professional sportsman. And next Sunday is wrapped up with Marseille Nice. Always a bit of needle there. So, gentlemen, over the next couple of rounds of games, what takes your fancy?
Well, I guess I'll go first, and any excuse to go to the Stade Bollaert is worthwhile taking up. So I think that I will plumb for Lens against Nice, not just because they have probably, in my opinion, the best home support in the whole of Ligue 1, but also because Nice are now beginning to get on a little bit of a roll, and I think that will be actually quite entertaining. Lens will be very determined to get over a very disappointing draw for them. They really missed out on a chance, when you look back at it, to really put Paris Saint-Germain under pressure. They could have been level on points with them at this stage had they managed to do better. But anyway, so that's the one for me. I think Stade Bollaert is very good. Shall we leave the weekend until afterwards?
As you like.
Well, you know what? I've been so impressed by Reims against PSG that I'm going to be going there for my first Bon Voyage if we are doing the weekend after as well. I want to see how they get on against Lorient. I was listening to what Will Still said after the PSG match, and he said that the point earned in Paris would be worth nothing if Reims can't beat Lorient. And that's, fighting talk. So I'm keen to see how that one plays out against a very good Lorient side, obviously unexpectedly in contention for Europe at this moment in time. And obviously, I'll be enjoying, a couple of glasses of the city's famous champagne as well.
Upmarket football fans, right here on Le Beau Jeu. The weekend then, Angus, are you going champagne as well?
I'll have a beer in Lens, okay? If that's better, does that please you? I'm going to go to Marseille at the weekend.
It's pretty much all that you'll be able to do in Lens.
That is very true. There's only really one hotel as well, but fortunately it's right next to the ground, which is quite helpful. So that makes a lot of money.
Although I would advise anyone that ever does go to Lens to try, I think that same hotel does this fantastic dessert, which is basically a tribute to like the mounds, the coal mounds, which is it's like a chocolate dessert, which is
burnt.
Yeah, sort of. Well, it's got like some very, very dark chocolate kind of like sprinkled on top of it. So it looks very, very authentic and very true to the region. Honestly, it's fantastic. It's recommended when you're in town.
Are you sure they didn't just serve you a bit of coal and you didn't realise and you didn't want to say anything because it would be embarrassing?
Would have been embarrassing for them, seeing as they advertise themselves as pretty much the place to go and eat and stay while you're in Lens. But no, it was. I can confirm that it was chocolate on the inside and delicious, in fact.
Anyway, back to Marseille, and that's where I'm going at the weekend, Ian. And again, I guess I want to get my fill of Nice. I want to see whether or not they can come back and keep this little run going that they have, and whether Marseille can do better. And it's always a Mediterranean derby is always a good thing to go and see. So, and Marseille has a lot more hotels,
including 2 right next to the stadium where I usually stay at, actually.
Indeed,
and
yes,
if we want to go for food, there's a wide selection of food choices right outside the stadium. My particular favourite is the Thai restaurant, if you're asking. JJ, at the weekend?
At the weekend, I'm going to be going to Brest. I've already sold you the wonders of the molten slag heaps of Lens, but I would like to see Lens in action at least once next week. So I will be going to Brest, where there will be a veritable feast outside of the stadium as well, with all of the local specialties. And Brest, will be buoyed as well by that win this weekend just gone. So I'm curious to see how their form plays out in this next week.
They have the best restaurant, actually, of anywhere I've ever been, football related, right opposite the stadium. It's absolutely magnificent with its seafood.
And a great seafaring reference there as well, JJ, with Boyd. I do like the gratuitous pun, even if it was totally unintentional.
Well,
anyway,
that's like to ship them out.
Oh, I think we're sinking here. It's definitely, and this captain is leaving this ship before it just gets any worse. So head for the life rafts. Just every man, it's every man for himself, and every woman and child. We're an equal opportunities disaster area at Le Bourget. Thanks for listening to us again. I've been Ian Holyman, Jonathan Johnson. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Angus Torode as well. And we'll see you again next week after a very, very busy week in the French top flight. Au revoir.
Here's an opportunity, Sanchez.
Outrageous goal from Gael Kakuta.
Payet again. And Dolberg.
Messi again. This time maybe Messi's done it.